August 21, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. The only economic data that came out that might have moved the market was around 11 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is right here, this region here. Didn't really do anything, I would say. It was the FOMC meeting minutes from last month's meeting. And then I think there was like a crude inventory, 7:30 Pacific Standard right here. Crude oil inventories, which also didn't really do that much. This is what the chart looked like. It was very choppy. Overall, it was kind of I would say about I guess, 42-point range. But even then, it was just had a lot of swings. And I would say it was just kind of ranging. There were a few more setups than I saw in the past previous days. I took a total of 2 trades. One was, at the time I thought it was a good setup, but I looked back and I think I probably should have skipped it. And the second trade wasn't too bad. There was a few almost trades and a few good setups. There's also a missed trade that I tried to take, but I wasn't able to get filled. So I'm going to go into the trading right now. Volume was a little bit more than yesterday, but I wouldn't say it was all that high. So this is what it looked like in the pre-market. It, at this point, looked like it was just going to range. So it goes into the open, it starts trading, it starts moving sideways, and I thought this is actually a pretty good possible trade right here. You have this break of this green up channel, tests, it makes 2 attempts up, and then it kind of flushes down. It looked like it was making 2 bigger legs down, but I also saw 2 key entry points and 2 setups. Well, not 2 setups, 2 key entry points. So technically you have a new low here. It's a first entry short, pullback. You have a second entry short. Here, the second entry short, it's moving down, but I also saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback. Here creates a second entry long, and it has failed the second entry short. Because here, first entry short, second entry short, it fails on this candle. New high, first entry long, second entry long confirmed here, bouncing off a possible bottom of the range. And so I thought this is actually a decent setup. And there's enough room from here to the top of the range. Works out pretty well. This higher low is too late now because there's no room before you hit the possible high. So I saw it, but because I missed this trade, but I saw it and I thought, okay, maybe there's a higher low here, but definitely not worth the risk because it's already moved too much. The trade has already gone without me. It's a failed breakout of the pre-market highs. Prices then continue moving. So this is actually where I saw a second setup, and I actually missed this trade. So it's breaking out of this range now, and it looks like it's starting to push up in a bias or a bullish bias, right? Because it's not coming back down to the lower part of the range. It's making these higher lows every time. This is a new high of the day. It's a first entry long pullback. There's a potential second entry long here, but I also saw this as a new low. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. So this doesn't have a confirmed second entry long yet, and the second entry short here hasn't confirmed to fail yet. But it very much reminded me of this setup here. This one's a lot better though because it actually ticked below and it engulfed the previous, while this one doesn't. So I waited and watched. When this one opened, it flushed down and then it started to move up. At this point, I dropped in my trade at the highs right here. So I didn't have my trade ready, and then I didn't drop it in right when this opened. I actually waited a little bit on the life of this candle, and unfortunately doing that made me miss the trade. So I dropped at the highs here, and before it ever came back to me, it already made my scalp. So I knew when it was already up here, I had to get out of the trade because I don't want it to, the scalp's already been made, the trade moment has passed, so I had to let it go. It kept going up, and then here it makes a measured move. So here is I took a leg from here, push up, consolidated, and then made a second leg up. So I'm thinking the measured move has been made. It's an overshoot of this orange down channel, excuse me, not orange, this yellow up channel. There's a break, and I'm thinking it might make another break on this side. So it's pushing, and it creates this lower high. So this lower high, I'm going to say in hindsight, I should have skipped it, but this is what I was thinking at the time. The measure move has been made. It might be pulling back into this pre-market trading range. On top of that, what I've got going for me is this overshoot. It might make a corresponding overshoot here. So I'm not looking to go long just yet. It pushed below and through the EMA with a strong push with a close at the bottom. So I thought, okay, there's enough room for a scalp before I hit the lows of this yellow up channel. So I enter right here. Before this bar closes, I enter and it reverses on me. My stop is one tick above this guy. So I'm here thinking very likely this is a bad trade, or this trade's not going to work out. I'm going to lose. It kind of comes back up, touches. I'm still just one tick away, one tick from having a loss. Goes down. I'm thinking, okay, now it's kind of going on my side. First entry long, second entry long, second entry long failure. What got me a little nervous was it could bounce off this, even though there's an overshoot here. So I just waited patiently. It comes right back up. And now I'm thinking, oh, yep, it might be first entry long pullback, second entry long for push back up here. And then it finally flushes down and takes my, gives me my profit. And in hindsight, this was, I think, a little dicier for sure. I probably should have skipped it because the setup was a little ambiguous. I know that there's an overshoot here, most likely make a corresponding symmetric overshoot on this side, but there wasn't, other than this really strong signal bar for a lower high, I should have waited for this candle to close. And when this candle closes, I don't think I would have taken a long because there's the overshoot. So it's first entry long. You have a really strong argument for second entry long. Plus the EMA might be holding, but the overshoot kind of gave me pause. Plus it made the measure move. But definitely when I see this, and if I wasn't in the trade yet, I don't know that I would have taken the trade because it looks dicey. And then probably, well, I don't know that I would have gotten in the trade at all if I didn't take it here. And taking it here, I don't think it was a good trade. It definitely was an anxious hold. I had debated that maybe I'll just get out break even because it looked like it came down here. It started forming a range. And I thought, oh man, I'm in a trading range, which could, push up again or spike up momentarily and then come back in, which would take out my stop because it almost got me here. Excuse me, almost got me here, almost got me here, and then finally went through. So it was more fortunate that I got a profit out of it, but I could easily see that this was not the best setup. Prices continue moving down. It starts bouncing up, and right around here was where the FOMC, not the FOMC, the crude oil inventory came out. It didn't really do that much, so but there was no trade here as well. I did see a new low here. It's a first entry short right here, pulls back, makes a second entry short right here, but it felt very far away from the initial first entry, second entry, and it was a little ambiguous. Plus, these candles are pretty big side by side when I'm seeing this in real time. I'm not thinking of going short here. Then I have a confirmed second entry short. This candle is really huge. Whether it's going to keep going down or not, I'm not too sure. I did know that it stopped short of breaking below this guy, so there might be some kind of support here. Turns out it would have worked, but I don't know that at the time. Prices then continue moving up. Breaks, makes a new high. It's a lower high here, but there's no setup for making me feel confident taking this trade. And unfortunately, if you were able to get on this, it would have been awesome, but there was no clear justification for me to convince myself to take a short here, even though it's break of the screen, tests and made a new high, lower high potentially, enough room for the EMA. Just seeing this in real time, I wasn't sure, so I had to wait it out. And prices continue moving down. You get a second entry long here and a failure, but it was already really far away from anything. Prices then continue moving down. It bounces off the pre-market lows. Technically, the lowest low is here, and as I saw the most likely area of support is like one touch, two touch, three touch. I saw a second entry short here. The second entry short I thought was a possible trade. The thing that gave me pause was, okay, so it's a break of this orange down channel, tests and makes a new low, pushes up. It's potentially in a range, and there's some kind of EMA resistance. I needed this to close red. In other words, I needed the close to be lower than the open, then I would have felt confident taking this trade. This, granted, is a bearish bar, not fully bearish because it's still green, but it is kind of a bearish bar, so I thought it might have been more of an aggressive trade. And the candle is only about, well, the candle's within the risk tolerance. It's like 9 ticks, so 10 ticks is usually my preferable risk. So if it's a little bit less than that, it's not bad. But I left it alone. I thought it was a possible trade. It looks like it would have worked out though. And then there's like this multiple test region here, but I didn't really see a setup to trust going long yet because I figured this could still be sideways price action. Then it starts pushing up and out. I see the next setup here, but I called it an almost trade. You clearly have a new high, double top. You have a first entry long technically here, second entry long. But on the bigger visual, it looks like you just can group this as the new high break of this green up channel, first attempt up, pull back, second attempt up. So it's like a break, first entry long, pull back, second entry long, and a visual. The thing I didn't like about this second entry long is it's pretty much, it's inside or the same size as this bar, although it's kind of counter. In order for me to feel comfortable taking this trade is I needed a tick below to trap some people, then flush up. Or I needed this to close at the high, or ideally have broken one tick above. Because this is already a break below the EMA here, and it's closed 2 times outside, closed actually technically 3 times below the EMA, is giving me a little bit of caution. I don't know exactly what's going on. So not knowing exactly what's going on, I couldn't justify taking a long trade because I don't know that it's going to go long. And it looked like here, let's see, if I did enter, I would like to enter at the highs. It'd be 33.75. Yeah, you would have gotten a scalp out of this, but again, it felt a little dicey. Prices then continue moving down, moves down, breaks below the pre-market low. I see it as a failed breakout. Then I do see a failed second entry short. It's a new low here. It's a first entry short pullback. You have a second entry short here. Technically, your second entry short's made right here. So it's the first entry short. Second entry short's right here because this bar is lower than this. So technically, your second entry short's here, and this is where your failure is. Now, this failure felt okay. It's coming from a failed breakout. It's potentially moving back into this larger pre-market support. This is a decent signal bar. The risk is exactly 10 ticks. So your risk would probably be 11 ticks. I saw it. I don't know. I wasn't really sure. I wanted a higher low, just so I would know it's clearly above the EMA. And you don't really get that higher low till about here. And by then it feels like it's moved too much. Like it's, you could chase it, but I didn't feel that it was worth chasing this particular setup. Prices then continue moving up, consolidates here, then it starts another leg up. And here I thought, okay, maybe there's this bigger orange up channel because this break of this green up channel made one attempt up, second attempt up, then it pulled back and it started a second move up. So I'm thinking, is there a bigger channel here? It actually sets up where I take my second trade. I saw this clearly as a localized new high, a first entry long pullback, potentially a second entry long. So I'm seeing this, I'm thinking, okay, if this orange channel is valid, it had 1, 2 confirmations starting from here. Maybe you could say it's 3, but I would just say 3 touches for sure, right? It looks like it's a first break of this orange up channel. It's from this bottom side breakout, there's probably enough momentum to move back into range. So I watched this open. I didn't drop in my order yet. It moved down, and when it came back up, it actually broke above, dwelled for a little bit. That was enough time for me to drop in my order 1 tick above. And as you can see, I tried to trade this one with a runner. I got my core profit out here. Then I quickly moved my runner from down here up to my entry plus 1 tick to, make sure I don't give anything back at all. And unfortunately, it gets stopped out. Then it kind of consolidates and looked like if I, kept my stop for my runner down here, you're taking a bigger risk because you might get back some of your profit and slowly moved it up. You might have been able to catch a runner. It started to move back into the orange up channel. Prices move up. It bounces. Didn't mean to do that. Bounces. And I did see a second entry long here. And I was thinking maybe potential second entry long failure. I wasn't sure though, because overall there's no clear bias. I mean, there was this orange up channel going up off this kind of a big leg, and there was already a break here, tested the new high. So is this going to fail and move back down? I'm not 100% sure. So here, this doesn't really help that much more. It does move 1 tick below, but it's still very, very much inside this big green bar. So I'm just watching and waiting, and I'm thinking, okay, there was a trading range that I thought was here. There might be some kind of support here. I'm rather close to it, so I'm not necessarily ready to take a short yet. It just gets noisy, consolidates. Looks like it's having a little bit of trouble around the EMA, then it breaks through. And I do see a second entry short here, but I call it an almost trade. So it's a new low here, clearly lower than anything else previously, other than all the way over here. So localized new low, break of this red down channel, breaks, test the new low, So I start this as a new low. It's a first entry short pullback. You see a second entry short here. Well, technically I have a second entry short confirmed here. Here, I'm not ready to drop in an order yet because it just doesn't look good enough. Here you have a confirmed second entry short, and I do like that it engulfed this bar. I like that it moved one tick above, then flushed down. So this is a great setup, except for the fact that I'm running into a potential support area here. So if I were to try to enter this trade and I want to make sure I got it in, then I'd probably drop at the lows here, but then you'd have barely enough room to scalp out for a point. But then I wasn't really feeling that strongly about it to keep my trade, one tick below this guy. And if I did, it's debatable whether I would have even gotten filled here. So this is a nice setup, except it's already too low here for me to try to chase it, so I considered it an almost trade. Then prices start moving down, breaks, kind of keeps pushing down. So it's a first entry short, second entry short. This second entry short is too far from the EMA. It's an inside bar. It's a decent signal bar, but it's an inside bar, too far from the EMA. Nothing really else going for it, so I had to leave it alone. It gets a little congested here. You have a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here, but when you see this in real time, these three candles now are just too side by side. It's not giving me clear direction yet. So I need more price action to tell me what to do. As you can see, it just kind of gets choppy again. And it kind of moves into the last 10 minutes, which starts about right here. And so again, as I usually like to say, it's very dangerous to try to trade the last 10 minutes where things get very volatile, very whippy. And I was already up two winning trades. I wasn't really looking to try to maximize or get any more profit out of that. Just knowing that this one was a decent setup, and this one here was, I would say, lucky, because I think in a different context, not different context, but if I didn't enter this right here, I probably would have just been just as fine skipping this trade altogether. The fact that I entered here on a very mediocre setup, I think I was too drawn in by the strength of this signal bar, plus the fact that I was thinking this yellow up channel is the one, and it already made a measured move. It's pushing back down, first attempt up, second attempt up, failure, but I didn't wait for this candle to close. Entering on this lower high is risky. I probably, if I was going to enter, if this was destined for me to enter, I probably should have entered here on this first entry long, second entry long failure. But this second entry long doesn't fail till on this candle. So I'd have to wait to see what happens on this candle, then probably enter one tick below here. Maybe have gotten in on this candle, but it would have made me nervous anyways because my stop would have been one tick above these two guys where my original lower high stop would have been. So it would have been an anxious hold going short either way. So that's all I saw the charts today. Hopefully that was helpful.